Good afternoon from my garden. I'm outside. It's the afternoon of November 14th, and today I'm talking about mistakes and about learning to live with your mistakes if that's necessary, or about how to correct them if you can't live with them. Like this dog barking, that's a terrible mistake. But it's not my mistake. It's somebody who left their dog outside, and now that dog is infringing upon the noise barrier of everybody in the neighborhood. I can't fix that mistake. I think one of the is it the serenity prayer that says, God grant me the wisdom to know the difference? I can't fix other people's mistakes. I can only, hopefully, with the grace of God, fix my own. And the first part of that is to recognize when you've made your mistake. I make mistakes every day. This garden has been glorious lately. It has cradled me, especially during the latter part of summer and early fall, late fall actually. For some people, it's not even fall, it's the beginning of winter almost. But here in Mississippi, it's still fall. We still have morning glories. But look what I did today. I moved something. I moved something that was the result, that had landed in a place that was a result of my mistake. It has bothered me all summer long. There was a glorious iron obelisk. An obelisk is like a triangular tripod thing that plants can grow along. And I initially had put a rose in there. Well, quickly, the morning glory vines, long before they began to bloom, shaded that rose. So I moved the rose quite some time ago. But now, then it got to the point you couldn't even see the gorgeous iron obelisk that I paid a fortune to move to the Ozarks and then again to Mississippi. It's one of my favorite devices or ornaments in my yard. I couldn't even see it. That was a mistake. It was my mistake for planting it, putting it in a spot that would be crowded out. And then it became my mistake because I wouldn't move it. Well, it got so thickly ensnared in vines that I had to cut a bunch of vines back. And that's part of correcting a mistake sometimes. Part of correcting a mistake is cutting out what you've done wrong. But first you got to acknowledge it. Did I make a mistake? Me? I worked so hard to be perfect. Did I make a mistake? Yes, I did. I made a mistake. My first mistake, and I have another video about this, is that I planted this area with gorgeous African marigolds, and they're just about gone. Crackerjack marigolds, I guess they are gone. Well, the morning glories crowded them out, and I had to pull up tons of beautiful marigolds, African marigolds, that I knew would just be beautiful, but I knew that they would not get enough light and that they further shaded other plants that were trying to hang on the best they could, things that are important to my garden. Behind this mess, and I probably have lost it forever, is a Lady Banksia rose that just has been devoured by my morning glories. The morning glories are beautiful, but everybody has to behave themselves. So this is good, but if they have destroyed and my Lady Banksia rose, it's not good enough. So what I want to talk to you about today is that being good, just good enough, is not being good enough. Push yourself. And that's what I had to do today. I had to come out here today with massive instruments of torture and cut back a lot of the vines. Then I had to tilt this large iron arbor and drag it to another place. My objective was to get that arbor to a place that would receive enough light. Because you see, in a garden, it is important to have enough light. I showed you before these Mexican sunflowers that normally grow about, that tall, about 4 feet tall. These have grown to be 10 feet tall because I planted them where the morning glories would shade them, and they didn't get enough light. Well, they're tenacious enough, some of them were, that they've climbed into the light. Bless their pea-picking hearts. Well, I'm going to show you over here what okay, look there. Isn't that beautiful? I just have to brag on my morning. And I'm not telling you morning glories are bad. Morning glories are one of my favorite plants. They remind me of my grandmother. But you just have to learn how to work with all that excess. Today, I moved my beautiful obelisk to where I know it will receive enough light. It's bright as day here, isn't it? Well, behind it, I already know what I'm going to plant. Behind it and around it. I'm going to have to get out of the light so you can see him. Isn't he beautiful? Isn't he beautiful? He's about 7 or 8 feet tall. Paid a fortune for it, and then I've paid a fortune to move it over and over again. Hopefully this is his last move. Every time I move it, I break another part of it. But there's enough here to work with. Around this, I'm moving dirt. Today I told you I got a big pile of dirt, and I'm moving dirt all around it. And this is going to be where I have my children's garden next year. It will have a few, operative word, morning glories on it. But it will also have some tomatoes and maybe a rose there. But the operative word is have light. Move into the light. Move into the light. I've sworn I'm not going to talk about this election again. But after the election, I made some changes in my own life, because I felt like I needed to move into better light. Again, the first step in correcting a mistake is admitting it, and the second step is to take action. This week, one of the things I'm doing, and I had planned that when I actually thought Donald Trump was going to lose, and he didn't. I've already started working on Procreate, and I have some Procreate illustrations that I've started doing again. I started that 4 years ago. By mistake, there's that word again. I quit 4 years old. I was beginning to get pretty good at it, but I quit. Other things got in the way, and I quit. For the next operative word for today is plow to the end of the row. Plow to the end of the row. If you start a project, finish it. If you don't have the equipment you need, by the grace of God, I hope you can get it. To work and Procreate, you have to have an iPad. I strongly suggest an iPad Pro, because my iPad Pro is almost as big as my computer, and you have to have an Apple Pencil. I have a website, a blog, and I'm going to show you some of the illustrations that I created before I quit working on Procreate 4 years ago, which will give you some framework to know where I did already know something about Procreate before I started, but I forgot most of what I learned. I didn't work in Procreate long enough to create good habits. But one of the ways that I use Procreate is to correct my traditional art. And there's a painting that I was actually a copied marker drawing, and it was of Gypsy Rose Lee. Well, I worked tenaciously for days and days getting her design right, inventing the character, doing it just right, finished it, and the proportions were off. And I thought, oh my cow, I cannot fix that. But good enough is not good enough. So I put it on my iPad Pro in the app Procreate, and bit by bit, row by row, I created a great, what I consider to be a pretty decent Gypsy Rose Lee, who goes with my little ditty. Gypsy Rose Lee of Kalamazoo in Kalamazoo, Mizzou, has looked in her ball, oh wonder of awe. I think what she saw was you. And the you there is operatively means me. Again, if you can't live with your mistake, correct them. But first you need to look into your crystal ball and realize that you're on the wrong track.